certainly been interesting to say the least. Whether it's hulked out super tranners, outlandish NB icons, or, well, this. 2019 has never had a dull moment. Hell, I've made a weekly series since February covering all the nonsense that's come out of the trans community, and not once have I ran out of content.
Welcome back, everybody, any spotters who are watching, to this week's reality check.
Yeah. Okay, so Soul Mechanics is finally getting around, and mind you, this is going to be a part of our one of two special New Year's videos that we make, because by the time you guys see this, likely it will have passed into the new year. By the time our intended target asset has seen this, it will for sure have passed into the new year. So,
Happy New Year.
Happy fucking New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, most especially, Rose of Dawn. Madam, supreme badass of the transgender community.
Finally.
We are finally getting around to making a video for and about her.
Oh, she's so amazing. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, and her video is, incidentally, this year in Trans Stupid 2019. She's going to be covering...
Her Trans Stupid is a segment that she does weekly, I think. That's what it's called, I'm pretty sure.
Trans
so, like,
Stupid.
she has her videos, and then she does a weekly thing.
Because stupidity is intersectional.
Yeah, she says that. She finds, like, crazy news stories and stuff, and oh, I love watching her. She's so amazing.
Yeah, she is a voice of reason, madam. You are a loud and clear sounding out voice of reason in the trans community. Technically, I mean... the community to which she speaks in many cases, if not most cases, is what our friend, our opponent, Blair and or Calvin opponents would refer to as being the Transtrender community.
What does that mean?
That's the people who are, like the non-binary folk who are essentially just utilizing the transgender label. They consider themselves falling under the trans umbrella, but really are just a lot of them. And I'm not like...
Well, what, do they know anything about her even?
What do you mean?
Well, it's weird to just assume if you don't know the person. Like, I just assume it's a trans chick because that's what she says she is, right?
Yes, no.
So how the fuck does anybody know if they don't personally know her?
Rose of Dawn is a member of the actual transgender community. She is a transgender woman who has undergone the treatments and the processes.
Whatever. The point is that, like, you can't just... It seems very fucking rude to, like, somebody says, hey, I'm a trans chick, and you're like, you're just a trender.
No,
like,
well, we're not going to, as I was saying, I'm not going to make any accusations. I'm not going to assume. Yeah, well, no, they're not. I mean, it's obvious in the cases that they're speaking to. Blair doesn't do it so much, but she does speak to it, but she doesn't outright address it, which is something I wanted to address in the debate that I challenged her to, that she's not responding.
She did talk about it a little bit with the guy that was, like, suing people all over the place.
Yeah, Yaniv, which is...
she did quite a rant about that one, so...
She did that debate with the Yaniv debate, where she just trashed Yaniv the whole... That was fucking beautiful. You need to see that shit. That was beautiful.
Anyway, we're not talking about Blair.
But where Calvin addresses them, he's speaking to people that are very obviously a part of this transgender community, which essentially, for anybody that's not up to date on this, they're posers pretending to be this trendy, but they're essentially hijacking the transgender label.
But you also have to be real careful when you're talking about that and be extremely discriminate with your your words, because if you don't know the person, then you could be calling them out as just a transgender,
Exactly,
but
yes,
it could be a different
they
case.
could very well
yes,
be a different
so you
case,
got to
yeah.
be real careful with who the
So,
fuck you're talking about.
I mean, but when it is assessed, when we have made that assessment, at the very least seemingly appropriately with some degree of certainty, then I will in fact go ahead and be outright rude, because it's very rude of them to be hijacking the transgender label, to be mocking the transgender community in the way that they do.
Absolutely.
And they're damaging to such an extent that it's I don't think that many of the people in the actual transgender community really recognize it or realize the depth of the impact of damage that this trender community is actually doing to them, for them, and where this can lead.
We've talked about this before. I don't know if in any videos, but like the craziness, like the Yaniv,
the dude who fucking claims to be a 6-year-old girl.
Yeah, the guy that's like, I'm a 6-year-old girl, and that stuff is crazy, and it just kind of lends credence to some of the to the other side, where the crazy religious people come out and they're just like, well, that's evil and you're gonna go to hell and blah blah blah. You're just giving them fodder when
it's
these people pop up that are like, hey, I'm just a 6-year-old girl, and it's obviously like a 55-year-old guy. You know what I mean?
Just to map it, and this 55-year-old guy, or however old he is, he calls himself a 6-year-old girl. He's adopted by a family. He's living with their children. I think I've said this before, but I mean, what happens when that guy molests those children? Which, I mean, obviously, it's very likely that he's in it for that. What happens when he doesn't?
The point is that that gives even more credence to the people on the other side that,
What that does, if he abuses those children in any way, is effectively place that crime on the plate of the transgender community.
Pretty much. And it just lends credence to the people who they discriminate, and they can be...
It does more, though, than lend credence, because what it's doing is essentially using that same religion, to map this out for anybody that doesn't see it yet. These people are conditioned by society, by the trends in play, by the social programming, as it were, to utilize the same tactics, techniques, and technology as the religious community to effectively indoctrinate people around them. On one end, indoctrinate people to fall into this trend by suggesting that we have the trans people who, non-binary and such, who are going to outcast people who are what they call cis, which is a fucking chemistry term that doesn't apply.
I never really knew where that came from or what it means.
They're outcasting people who are ordinary and effectively isolating themselves. I mean, there's so many problems with this in every which way, but at the same time, they're conditioning the people.
Not very healthy.
They're conditioning the people on the other side of this, most especially the religious folk, but really any cisgendered person, to be afraid of them, to be hateful towards them. I mean, these people are out there just outright programming their very lives, their very reality to be segregated, isolated, hateful, dispensed of.
It should be made clear that you're talking more specifically about extremist people that are...
Right, but as
psychos,
I
people
stated
that are crazy,
in our,
not just normal people in their everyday lives.
As I stated in our undoable and Onision, our failed Onision video, it is in fact the case that this sense of extremism is coming out more and more and becoming more prevalent. I
don't know about that.
This is happening in the schools. This isn't just an internet thing here with with the transgender.
You mean like the colleges, the craziness on the college campuses?
No, in the younger kids in school, in high school, and even younger, they're being conditioned.
I think it depends on the area. I really do. I don't think we're getting the whole picture here.
Mm-hmm.
There was one study that I read a while ago. Man, I can't even remember who did this, but it was regarding like the crazy. like the protests that get out of hand and the people that are shouted down and kicked out of colleges, and it's mostly like the 4 really big like liberal arts colleges. There's like one on the West Coast, or there's 2 on the West Coast in Chicago or whatever, and like one on the East Coast. And then other than that, though, everybody else in between is just kind of going about their business. Like, it's, you know, get out of here. So it showed that the extremist type of behavior is kind of concentrated in these little spots over the map.
There'd be pockets, of course, and pockets of activity, but I mean, I deal personally. I've dealt with a lot of younger kids, not a whole lot, but a decent handful of younger kids. I've been teaching, mentoring to some extent or another. You say grooming them, but I've helped them out with their issues and problems, but one of the problems I see most often occurring with them is this trend. It's going to be towards the transgender. It's that activist complex, this activism syndrome.
But it's not. That encompasses a lot of other shit.
It does, yes,
animal
but
rights and veganism
it's applied.
And blah blah blah. It could be anything.
It's applied to this idea of being transgender, being uniqueness. It's them essentially crying out for some sense of attention or some sense of appreciation of their uniqueness.
But it's also, I think, it's also kind of a funnel for, you get those feelings, especially when you're coming up in like high school and stuff, where you want to do something important, you want to do something big, you want to be a part of something, epic and major in your life to give it purpose, and so you end up kind of clawing on to an issue where you want to be the one that, that lends your voice as a force for good and freedom or whatever, and to speak out against or to speak for a, community. So I think at the beginning, like stages, it's a good thing. I think young people are I think it's fantastic that people have those urges to be that in that type of activism, but I think it just kind of goes a little bit too far sometimes, and it ends up being kind of fake.
People look down and they talk about the fake deep thing. That's something we'll get around to with the next target asset we address, is this fake deep issue. But
what's that?
It's you'll see it.
Do you mean deep fake?
No, they're 2 different things. But it's the fake deep is just this kind of bullshit kind of pretending to. It's the people who are pretending to be spotters. It's like the woke phenomenon, but it's.
That's not a new thing.
Where we see
has a
this
new name or whatever.
No, it's not a new thing, but it is an element that when you see the video I'm going to present to you about it, you'll understand where we're coming from with that. But that's not for this one. But where we see this activism syndrome, that's an indication that these kids, these people, they have that spirit. They're an operative. They are operatives. They're here with the initiative meant to fight alongside us. But
off on the path a little bit.
It moves into this social justice warrior thing, and people address.
But there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's just that it's become like trendy. So,
it's become trendy and it's become extreme, and it's warped because it's going to have people seeing the very concept of social justice, and again, this is where the terms, the words, the rhetoric comes into play. As being like a negative thing,
which again just lends credence to the other side that says, you shouldn't stand up for anything, and you shouldn't, help these, disenfranchised people or these people, like a group that's been discriminated against. Fuck them because you're just a social justice warrior. So again, it's just. It ends up being this domino effect where whatever you're fighting for, you're just making it worse because the other side has more. Yeah, like that guy that got beat to not to death. He got like a skull fracture from the Antifa protest. I guess that's a mob basically. It's not a protest.
Thank you for bringing
we did a video on that. That was like one of the first ones that we ever did.
That's super important. First of all, Madam Rose of Dawn, It's very much a pleasure to informally or indirectly meet you. You are fucking awesome. We love you. I've been telling you this for a while.
We bask in the glow.
We bask in the glory of the rose.
But we're not worthy. The Wayne's World thing.
Right. But I mentioned this to you before, I think on a couple different occasions. I didn't really clarify though. There is a serious problem with Antifa that I don't think you guys are seeing. Antifa has attached themselves to the transgender community now. And these people, these Antifa, they're not a mistake. These people are not going around hurting people. They are intentionally, deliberately placing themselves in the spotlight as a villain and then associating themselves to communities such as yours. They're sabotaging you.
I think that's been going on for a long time. I don't think that's any new kind of thing either.
No, but people seem to think that
it
Antifa is what they say they are.
It depends on the individual. There are
Antifa's a foil. They're not real.
But there are people that are anti-fascist activists that are trying to do a good thing.
Believe it to be the case for sure, yeah.
So again, you have to just look at the individual.
But where you see these actual Antifa agents, like the person who came in with the bomb, tried to bomb this place, and he had a note on him.
Where was that?
I don't remember, but Rose did a video on it.
Oh.
This dude tried to bomb someplace, and he had a note on him saying that he was influenced by the trans community, or that he was inspired by the trans community.
Oh my God, was it that women's shelter in Canada?
Yeah, maybe. I think so.
Yeah, that place has been getting crazy. But, like, again, that's just another example of shit going off the rails. Like, when you start harassing, they were getting, like, threats, and at one point somebody, like, nailed a dead squirrel to their door or something. It's this shelter in Canada that was like, hey, we take in a lot of battered women, so we're just kind of gonna do all like women and children because some people kind of can't deal with having men around or whatever in these early stages of trying to do something about whatever problem they have, and so people freaked out, and they said like you can't just have women in your battered women's shelter. And started harassing them or whatever. Like, if you have time to go to a nonprofit charity battered women's and children's shelter and fuck with them, then you have time to goddamn find an actual enemy that's people that are doing bad things and harass them instead. Like, it's ridiculous.
That segues us perfectly into what we need to say before we get into the video. For Madame Rose of Dawn. What we're doing here is an investigation into what we're calling the ANE. It is the algorithm for negative engagement. However, as you might find if you check out any of our videos along these lines, the Deeper Than You Think series, it goes deeper than you think. This negative engagement algorithm is in fact inherent in the programming of us as a species, as a people. It's something that is working in our subconscious all the time, and it's causing for us to be combative, to be segregated, to be owning this division complex. Wherein we all of us feel as though we need to be combating some enemy, but we don't know what the enemy is. We treat each other as though we're the enemy. We treat other communities as though they're the enemy. And this is present nowhere more so than in the trans community as we see it now. And in fact, the transgender community, the actual transgender community, the real deal Holyfield, are exceptionally important to the works of the initiative, as it were. You might not be aware of what the initiative is, but actually go ahead and watch our other New Year's video. It'll explain it quite clearly. But for now, just know that we are a networking organization, and we, in these videos, in this channel, with some of our groups, we do investigations, we do social experiments, and this is one such investigation / social experiment, looking into the negative engagement algorithm, the properties and nature of it as an inherent entity in our very reality, and seeing how looking into it, exposing it for the most part, and B, looking into how we can actually combat it. And of course, the first and foremost thing that must be done is for us to unify, for us to collaborate, for us to stand together. And so we are addressing certain target assets, as it were, other YouTubers and other peoples in the YouTube arena that we'd like to enlist to aid us in this experiment of combating this general negative impulse in human behavioral system.
You know what I think it might be, actually, when you were talking, it just popped in my head, the fight or flight thing. It's like a knee-jerk kind of reaction. So I guess you said the best way to combat this is to stand together or whatever. Really, maybe the best way to combat something like this is to just take a second to fucking think before you start typing something or harassing someone or saying something or clicking something or whatever it is, and just sleep on it or think about it for a minute.
You want to invest the time in your decisions to look ahead and to see, what the probable consequences might be, and then how this is going to actually affect people in what way. What implications are you putting into play? What does your statements imply about who you are and what your intentions are?
Yeah, like a chess game.
It
Try and
is like
think
a
couple
giant
moves
chess game.
ahead.
And
people don't really play that game anymore, though, I'm guessing.
But, Madam Rose, you are in fact a queen on the board, and we would like to enlist your aid in this endeavor. We would like to be as whatever help we can to you in your endeavor, because what you are doing is exceptionally important. I understand that you're just like a comedy news channel, but that is a very important service to be providing, and we thank you for it deeply and sincerely. So let's
check out
her video.
The year in Transtupid 2019.
What I wanted to say about that is that this negative engagement algorithm, that's the true enemy. That's what we need to be addressing. That's what we're trying to expose. Is that there is no human enemy. We're not fighting each other. It's this program, this broken program, this busted value in our system that's causing for us to behave this way. That's the enemy. So.
All right.
Back over the last year, from the hilarious to the strange, the milestone moments, and even some of the stories that we've missed along the way. So with that, pour yourself a glass of your favourite festive beverage, and let's review the year in Transtupid for 2019.
It's kind of long, so
January
we probably won't
began this year
watch the
in
whole thing.
December, actually. Yeah, I know it doesn't quite flow, but stick with me here. As January's biggest story by far happened right...
Our stick here with the Reality Check series is that we pick out a video we have never seen before. We watch it for the very first time live in front of you guys, and we react for the very first time, honestly, genuinely. So, just to note that before you, we have not seen your video. We likely won't be able to finish it throughout the duration of this video, but we're going to do our very best with it.
Right at the end of 2018, so it kind of counts with this, be fair on me. And that was when we were introduced to the trans community's most macho man.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That was a year ago?
Settle down and mind your business, okay?
This is a long time
Once
ago.
again, ma'am. I said both of you. No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am. I actually said both of you guys. It was general. Right beforehand, you fucking said sir. Sir? Okay. Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir. I apologize. Motherfucker. I apologize now.
What the fuck are we supposed to be calling you, man?
Macho man tranny savage's thoroughly deranged outburst at a GameStop in Mexico went viral right at the end of 2018, but the memes flowed on into the new year. Now, according to LGBTQ Nation, conservatives viciously mocked more. Now, let's be honest, you don't have to be on the right to find this cringy. Granted, I know I lean to the right, but this was a thoroughly embarrassing incident.
One, that happened years ago.
Keep your mouth shut. No, it was a year ago.
But I think that's something that's been altered. Oh, by the way, we're working with
Jesus,
time
not with
travel,
this again.
but we're experimenting with time travel, practical time travel.
No,
But
this one.
that really seems like a foil. I'm gonna call this here before we even get into it. That can't be real. That person went there and did that deliberately to give trans people a bad name, to put a bad name on this whole political inference as to what your pronouns are. That was a trick. That's a trick.
I wonder if the anybody like tracked down this person and interviewed them or talked to them or anything like that. I didn't really follow the story. I saw the video, or I heard about it, I saw the video, laughed, showed it to somebody, and then that was like the end of it, pretty much.
Might be a good idea, if not, to go ahead and look into that, see where this person is now, see if they in fact actually live this lifestyle, because I'm gonna go ahead and doubt it. I bet that's a fucking plant.
I don't know, man.
Maybe I'm just too skeptical, or maybe I'm just, conspiracy theorist nut, but I think that's a foil. I mean, it's obvious.
I wouldn't
Nobody
be surprised
behaves
either
that
way.
fucking way.
Yes, people do fucking behave that way. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a real sir. Real ma'am. Oh man, it is funny though. She's freaked out.
And it was absolutely not the right way to handle an accidental misgendering. But naturally, the trans activist was sympathetic to Moore's roid rage. Such brilliant anecdotes included, the trans woman in that video probably gets treated like shit in every part of her life. Back when I was dealing with intense trans misogyny from family, a roommate, and my workplace at the same time, I was ready to go off on anybody who was even a little disrespectful. The video of that trans woman in GameStop is so heartbreaking. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. I'm sure nobody deserves to be treated like this either.
Take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir. Motherfucker.
Nobody deserves
God, that video
to
of
have
the trans
someone
woman in GameStop is
accidentally
so sad.
say
I want
one
to hug
wrong
her. I
word.
hope she's okay. And it was natural that these people would
That's not a
defend
victim.
a baby tantrum. Of course they're going to. And we always see this kind of attitude being protected as though it's justified anger. Hell, months after Moore's outburst, another tranner
Yeah,
went
don't
either
get me wrong.
similar.
I mean, if this person's been mistreated in their life...
That's not mistreatment though. That's
No,
that's
not
one
that. I mean, in the rest of their
person
life, if they've been mistreated elsewhere,
saying
and then-
wrong word.
and blowing up in that way, that might be an outburst because of pent up shit from other people. Maybe that person took it.
That
from
doesn't
their
make it
family.
appropriate.
No, it's not appropriate.
It's not
at all
appropriate when other
by
people do
anybody.
it for other reasons.
But it's. I mean, it's certainly to some extent understandable if that's the case, but I doubt it. I doubt that's the case. I don't think this person has been abused and mistreated.
For argument's sake, for the benefit of the doubt, we'll just give that person the benefit of the doubt for
Right.
argument's sake and say, yeah, sure, GameStop clerk, some rando 17-year-old kid who just smoked a joint on his fucking break.
I apologize. You can take it outside,
Said
motherfucker.
one wrong word, and all of a sudden you're
We
a
got
victim.
fucking Rambo victim.
You're a
going
victim.
ape shit fucking nuts.
When there are people that are being, like we just talked about that a little while ago, the female genital mutilation, there's poor girls being sold to old dudes to be married off, and in some other countries and shit. That's a victim. That's when someone says a wrong word while addressing you. You are an adult, and you need to deal with it as such. Like, Jesus. Who's this one?
I've been in the parking lot, ready to fight. You don't call me by my goddamn. They say you done started the shit all over again. Do a goddamn sir walk around the motherfucker in the world with a goddamn titties. You wouldn't know if I was a sir if I would have told you I was a goddamn sir. A sir don't walk around nowhere with no goddamn titties and ass on their back, or anybody who want to be associated with a goddamn sir. You should have asked me my motherfucking name. Fuck you and the horse that you rode on, you funky, sour smelling motherfucker. I was gonna leave you the fuck alone. Now I'ma call the goddamn scene, you son of a bitch. As a matter of fact, you gonna take these goddamn shoes back today, because any goddamn girl who comes up in here but after me with titties and ass on her motherfucking back will be respected, and she will not be call the goddamn sir. Fuck you and your mama, your sister, your brother, your uncle.
Okay, that's not even
Fuck you and your mama and your sister and
Yeah,
your brother and
that's,
your uncle.
That's a YouTube. That's a catch grab. That's just that person was just making that for views. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
That I can absolutely believe that, but the fact is that no matter what the origin of it, some people
Right.
saw that
No matter what the
and
intention
laughed.
is.
Some people saw that and was like, oh, I'm
See-
horrified, and other people saw that and was like, look at this piece of shit.
Right.
Why are you got boobs? Like
The thing is, it's the unintended consequences that impact us the most. It's regardless of whether the GameStop person was or was not a foil, regardless of whether this person was doing a YouTube catch grab.
Yes, I already said, for argument's sake.
The actual consequences, the outcome, and what is really happening is that this general behavioral tendency, this programming, this ANE in our psyche is creating these instances, causing for this to happen. So they're all foils. In ultimate reality, they're all foils.
I mean, yeah, in a sense, for sure. But that none of that, I don't know. I mean, I guess it does matter
Of course it
to a
matters.
certain extent, but the ripple effects, I think, is what
Yes,
is going to be the
again,
most
it's
important
the unintended
thing. Yeah,
consequences
absolutely.
that actually matter.
Absolutely. The
The
ripple
intentions
effect.
don't even play into this. You can't
Because
even tell what the intention is.
No, you can't. But the intent, like, if we're talking about intention, what about the intention of the GameStop kid? Does that matter? He wasn't trying to hurt anybody's feelings.
No.
Does that matter? Or he was trying to hurt someone's feelings and be hateful. Does that matter?
That's like what we deal with Demi, which, Madam Rose of Dawn, I saw recently that you became acquainted with Rachel Oates. That was pretty awesome. We're kind of what would you call it, a long distance buddy of hers. We've worked with her before to some extent, not with her directly, but whatever we did. We know her. And, also, there's another YouTuber that you might want to become acquainted with that we have dealt with directly, called Demi, named Demi. I hate when people say called. They're not called, they're named things.
It's the same thing. You can say
not.
called.
You call objects. Anyways, Madam Demi does a channel called Anti-Ordinary, which we would like to provide whatever support and assistance we can to. It's a relatively small channel as regards the communities that we've been dealing with. Your channel is enormous by comparison, but perhaps you could help her out to some extent if you want to. I do believe that the two of you would get along in this regard. You do have similar views, and her channel is in some ways similar to yours, except where you come at it with a comedic angle. Demi's more hilarious in the way that she really just fucking rags on people like hardcore. But just saying, that's a connection that we are a networking organization. Our job is to bring people together to provide instances wherein, relationships might be beneficial.
And your cousin, you bitch ass nigga. Fuck you. Take these shoes.
Now, Moore would eventually be interviewed to bring up her side of the story,
she
saying
was
that
interviewed.
her strop brought out the bigots. Hilariously, though, GameStop stood by their employee, saying the incident that occurred between Tiffany Moore and our GameStop associate was unfortunate. We believe our associate acted rising and remaining calm to de-escalate the situation. The Macho Man
didn't
memes
work,
eventually passed their sell-off date, but Moore did attempt one last shot at relevance by releasing a rap record.
Wow.
Yep.
Y'all bitches is with it. I got a thing or two to say to you, so give this chick a minute. I'ma take the mic away from you. They got a thing or two while billions of people talking shit, watching
Okay.
Stop it, play ball and
So,
shit.
yeah.
Leave it gender once, you're gonna get corrected.
You're definitely a
Twice,
moron.
three times and I get aggressive.
That proves it right there. That goes to show.
So-
By the way, I'm sorry, I missed it. What I meant to say about Demi is that our intentions were to be
Blabby
helpful to
tonight.
her. Well, I'm talking to Rosa Dawn, man. Get me shit. I'm fucking excited.
Are we talking
I'm
about
excited.
the video?
Right, but the reason I mentioned Demi was because our intentions were to be beneficial and friendly to her, and she regarded it as an attack of course, took offense to it and even came back by being offensive and putting me down. She loves Sweetie Cheeks.
No one cares about that. So, I didn't know about the rap record thing. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
What? But I noticed
Serotonin.
if you try and I guess I could try and go back. Whatever, it's not important. But in the first like sentence of the rap, he says something about you bitches.
Yeah.
That's a wrong word.
Right. Who the fuck is gonna...
You calling me a bitch?
What,
How disrespectful is that
What,
to all the ladies who are listening?
What ma'am is gonna be saying y'all bitches and in a fucking...
That's not the point.
In a
The point
steroid
is that
manly voice.
it's
Come on.
one word. It's one word that negatively associates all women.
Right, and you put
And
this
it's
threw
disrespectful,
out there,
right?
Threw it out there in a fucking rap song, like you intended for everyone to see
And then
this.
goes on to in her little rhyme to say like, misgender me one time, you get corrected. Second time is disrespect. Like you just called everybody, all the women, bitches. So like that's one wrong word, and
Right,
it's disrespectful.
That's one very, very wrong word.
Again, it's there's a touch of hypocrisy there. If you expect
a dash of irony.
If you expect every single word to be perfect out of humanity, we can't even get like simple shit down. We can't even deal with like hunger and homelessness. But we're supposed to make sure and guarantee every word to the very letter is always correct.
Yeah, politically correct.
Right.
Not actually correct.
Right. It seems a little bit unrealistic.
Because, I mean, it would be actually correct to address this person as a sir, because obviously that is what they are. They dress like a woman, but again, you're not presenting as a woman, are you? It's your behavior that defines you.
None of that matters. The fact is that if you don't know, then you can't be expected to know,
exactly,
you know? So
exactly.
I just think it's so funny that one word just set this chick off.
In this case, if you are presenting as a man, I mean, it should be expected that you'll be addressed as a man.
You have like a 5 o'clock shadow and you're screaming at people, but we'll call you ma'am.
You grew your hair out a little ways. You have a terrible haircut, by the way.
Yeah,
and you're wearing this really like kind of cheesy
That's
soccer mom clothing. Like, no, this is bullshit. This person's a fraud, and that's what I'm talking about with this transtrender. And I'm not gonna.
I think
sorry,
the rap
I'm not,
video kind of gives it away a little bit.
I'm not gonna be fucking nice about it. I don't care if I'm rude to these people. The point.
If there wasn't a rap video, I'd probably say this could be
yeah,
real. This could be real.
But no, I think we crossed a couple
video.
lines there.
Oh
it's
my God.
Wow. It's,
Wow.
again, to bring it up and to make it clear for Rose in case she's unaware, you know, this is speaking to this Tower of Babel scenario wherein we have taken our very language and kind of deconstructed it in this way and mismatched the identifications where we're all saying the same things but we don't understand each other. There's, you know, implications attached to every fucking term we use.
Well, it's a little frustrating because no matter what the language or whatever, I feel like there was a certain time in my life where I kind of came to a realization that at the very least for the people that are close to you, for the people that are in your life every single day, your family, your very good friends, things like that, that the words aren't so much the communicators. You can feel somebody's intentions when you know them and you're close to them. You can read certain things from certain people. Some people are exceptionally good at it and can read people they don't even know and have never met. So why are we placing so much importance of the communication aspect on just the words?
Because
it doesn't matter what they mean. It doesn't matter what's in the fucking dictionary.
There's several reasons for that. One is obviously the most obvious value in play is going to be, again, the corrupted religious aspect wherein the word is made flesh. The word is The very Bible
you're right.
cements the concept that the word is what
capital
matters,
W.
and thereafter also our word, our speaking, it's kind of another measure of detaching ourselves, just as is the whole constructing the robotic external identity, like how we have these political terms that define us. That's essentially utilizing our language to construct this externalized armor identity, this robot person to represent us, where we have this detached, removed identification, representation that's out there presenting as us, but it is not us. And that, again, ultimately comes from the religious concept of separating the self from the soul. Yeah, so
you're like, you have another, fake, you're a fake ghost of yourself.
You're hiding from reality.
Which is classic psychology, the incongruence between the real self and the ideal self. Mm-hmm. The point is, the purpose is, the end game for living a peaceful and a meaningful life would be to take those two things and get rid of that incongruence, to be more congruent with the person that you actually are and the person you see yourself as.
And the person, again, that is speaking to my meaning of life video, addressing Abbas Yell indirectly, was that's what I believe it to be, the nature of the game, or the point in playing the game, how to win the game. To make note for spotters, for our people, our fans, our spotters, words are tools. We make use of words to create.
Just like any other.
Language is a tool. It is our operating system. It is not directly representative of who and what we are, but spotters can make note, especially those who become good at reading people, that body language, presentation, the very feel of a person, that's what you're going to be looking for. And so far as goes identifying a person, the words are just the tools, utilities. But at the same time, the words have implications attached to them, and that's what actually matters. That's what the brain sees. Mm-hmm. The brain doesn't see what you say. The brain sees what you say, what you said, what your words and your sayings imply.
Yeah, absolutely.
About you.
Absolutely. That's another thing that I had a whole series of different conversations with my young family member, my little apprentice, who is such a beautiful young woman and just can't.
Our magnificent niece who has a girlfriend.
I can't express how much I'm so proud of this girl. I don't know, whatever. Either way, but that was one of the things I remember focusing on.
We love you.
Was the words versus the implications. And I think that when you're younger and you're kind of going through high school and all that, it can be really confusing that when you're talking to somebody or when you're expressing some kind of frustration or a difference of opinion or whatever, and there's a little bit of confusion there when you say, well, I said this, this, and this, and I said this, I said that, and I said this, and I sometimes have to catch her and say, but you implied A, B, C, and D by the words that you've chosen, and sometimes there's a lot more behind that than the words that you use, but there's also sometimes not that much behind that, as in the case of a random GameStop employee, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's nothing behind it, it's just, I'm at work and I want to go home. So you really do have to kind of master the art of kind of reading the situation and the person.
Yeah, and remaining graceful.
And absolutely.
Another point to make for operative spotters out there is that where I stated that, my meaning of life video, if you haven't seen that, go and watch it. Press the like button, please. Share it if it has value, and it does. The purpose in playing the game is to line up that, to eliminate that incongruence, to sync up with your ideal self, your essentially who you lining up who you would like to be with who other people are seeing. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
again,
same
that's
thing,
your
right.
that's going to be the implications you put in play. The people are not seeing what you say you are; they're
But
seeing
that's
what you
another
imply.
weird thing too. People walk around going, actions speak louder than words, but then their actions are saying different things than their
Yes.
words, and you don't even realize it.
They
Which
don't realize it.
how far can one be, faulted when that happens? Because if you don't even realize it, then obviously you need
Well,
some
that's-
help. You
that is
need
it. Yes.
a hand extended and somebody
And
to
that's-
say,
That's what a spotter does.
Yeah.
Spot people.
So you can't put all of the blame on somebody who has no idea what they're actually
They are in fact blameless. They're
projecting. I mean,
They're
really.
essentially, for the most part, even though we're not going to endorse this whole victimization complex. See, the victimization complex, the activism
there's
syndrome,
a lot more in
these things are
that.
these things are unintended or maybe not unintentional, but indeliberate side effects of the actual consideration in play, because they are victims. They are victims of this negative engagement paradigm.
Right.
But they don't realize that. They think
Right.
they're being victimized by people, and they find reasons, they make up reasons in
And
their head.
especially
It's
when we
make-believe.
talk about young people, like, you don't just pop out knowing everything. You need time to learn and time to grow. So I think that when people place such a large amount of fault and blame on the shoulders of extremely young people who are still learning all this stuff, that you can't really blame somebody who's so young. I mean, your brain isn't even fully developed till you're, what, 26?
How young is
or something?
extremely young? And no, I don't think it's ever fully
It's
developed.
relative, but it's relative depending on what you're talking about. But if you're, talking about a 15-year-old or
I was making a joke.
I know, I'm just saying that it's not really fair because we learn what we're taught.
Mhm.
So my favorite
then
one
we
is
have-
the participation trophy thing when people go off and rant about that. Like, do you think a first grade soccer player went to the store and bought all the trophies and have them engraved with all the kids' names on the teams? No. Their parents did. It's the generation above that is causing those things to happen. So when you say, oh, these participation trophy kids, like, they were made, they were created
Yeah, well,
by somebody else.
Honestly, I think that's more a slight on the parents in that case.
Sometimes, but I don't know.
But it's again a slippery slope. It's going to slide into that very
Right.
easily.
These fucking millennials, like.
And that's what's happening, is that everything's becoming this slippery slope where it's so easy to slide into this ultimately this negative engagement algorithm. It seems to be winning in this battle between
Kind of.
us and it. And again, just to cover it before we continue there, the goal of the game being to line up the ideal self and the actual self. Like you said, they don't realize what they're doing because they've detached themselves from the reality. They're hiding from reality,
Because
removing
it's very
themselves
scary
from
and
reality.
it's very
It's
painful,
scary.
for
It's
sure.
very scary because we are in the midst of an epic battle.
No matter who it is or what's happening, it's very scary to face yourself like that.
And it's scary because we are, in fact, the worldwide initiative, just to make note, our belief in this matter, our understanding, and we have a great deal of evidence to back this, is that people are, in fact, born for this purpose. They are here for the purpose of combating this and removing it, of ensuring that we make it through in our our evolution as a species, that we actually overcome this and move into a greater stage of intelligence and understanding. And these people are being affected by this in just such a way as to misidentify this sense of victimization, to misidentify this sense of activism, and the enemy in play is so subtle, so simple, and so every fucking where that you don't even see it happening. It's invisible to you, and you pointing the finger at other people. where you say they don't realize what they're doing again, it's because they remove themselves from the reality.
Yeah,
but
you're a ghost
that's what
of
we need to
yourself.
do. We're living as ghosts. The whole world is haunted. You need to realize yourself. Be realized in the sense that
That's another
your
term.
thoughts, your words, your actions, who you are and who you present as being are deliberate and operative.
That's a big thing too, I think, is that people don't realize how deliberate that it is what you're presenting as who you are, or the lack thereof, who you are not. You know, there's a deliberate thing there, and even if you choose to not choose, you still have made a choice, as the song goes, you know. So the deliberation is there whether you like it or not. So you might as well use your powers for good instead of evil.
Right, and that brings up our, as I said earlier, as I mentioned earlier, I had challenged both Calvin, I can't remember his last name, Calvin something, I'm sure you know who he is, and Blair White. I had challenged them both to this debate. Madam Rose of Dawn, I'm going to go ahead and challenge you formally. Digital slap to the face. Sorry, I don't want to slap. No, I rescind it. I take back the slap. That's not necessary for Rose. Just a formal challenge to a debate on the matter of choice in general as regards the trans community and whether or not
I don't know. Debate, maybe. I would use the word discussion.
Discussion, yeah. A discussion on the matter, not... Well, I honestly, I don't know what her... I don't know, madam,
That's why it's
what
a
your...
discussion.
Yeah, I don't know what your
Dumbass.
view on that is, whether or not you do consider the transgender being as a choice or not, but I do, and I have reasons to feel that way that I would love to discuss.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd love to discuss that with you. I would love to discuss a great many things with you. You are, say, a talented individual indeed.
For sure. Well, let's see what else is going on in 2019. We're definitely not going to get through this whole video.
No.
Oh, the rap video.
We don't need to. We've covered enough already, actually.
Misgendering. Katie Scotto said she was held in a cell for 7 hours after being questioned by police with no access to any sanitary products. The story spread with even Donald Trump Jr. sharing a Daily Mail article on what happened. Now, the victim of this horrific misgendering was a real lady lawyer by the name of Stephanie Hayden. Hayden first garnered infamy for reporting Father Ted creator Graham Lennon to the police back in 2018 after they had a fairly heated Twitter argument.
I know this one.
Scotto's arrest was the first of many antics that
This is the one
Alright,
who goes around suing people.
I was trying to kind of skip through the awful rap video, so I cut off the beginning of this incident. So tell me what the hell it was.
Rose has actually done videos on this one before. Just women.
Oh, there it is. In February, 3 police officers arrested a woman in front of her children and locked her up for 7 hours after she referred to a transgender woman as a man on Twitter.
Why? Why was she locked up for speaking?
She was reported by a transgender activist for dead naming.
Dead naming.
Not even face to face. That's online.
Yeah, dead naming. I don't understand what that's supposed to even mean. And that's something else I would love to bring up to the fucking in a real, heart to heart, person to person, honest, sincere discussion. Respectful discussion on this matter.
It doesn't say where this happened.
What the
let's
fuck
go
is dead
over
naming?
it again. She said in February.
A shocking story emerged of a mother being arrested in front of her young children by 3 police officers for the alleged crime of misgendering. Katie Scotto said she was held in a cell for 7 hours after being questioned by police with no access to any sanitary products. The story spread with even Donald Trump Jr. sharing a Daily Mail article on what happened. Now, the victim of this horrific misgendering was a real lady lawyer by the name of Stephanie Hayden. Hayden first garnered infamy for reporting Father Ted creator Graham Lennon to the police back in 2018 after they had a fairly heated Twitter argument. Well, Scotto's arrest was the first of many antics that Hayden got up to in 2019. Notable highlights included demands that Mumsnet reveal the name of a particularly mean user, and her one-tran vendetta against Catholic journalist Caroline Farrow. Hayden alleged Farrow had an unnatural fixation on her, and after exchanging multiple heated exchanges on Twitter, Hayden decided to consult her own Legion of Troon to discuss what should be done about that Farrow woman. Hayden came to the conclusion this would be best dealt with in court, because what else would she do? And actually turned up to Farrow's own property to deliver the papers by hand, as seen in this kind of menacing pic. Eventually a judge had to step in and stop the pair from mentioning each other online, which, let's be honest, is probably for the best. Shortly after, Hayden disappeared from the headlines, although it was revealed in September that Scotto would actually be charged with trolling Hayden. Still, she'd occasionally turn up on Russia Today, giving the impression that her voice rises every time she takes someone to court.
It does not just relate to misgendering me as a male. It's far more serious than that. The allegations are far more serious. And I think it's very important that the two lived experiences are treated distinctly.
Wow.
March now, and the start of one of the year's biggest debates on trans issues, the involvement of trans women in sport. Martina Navratilova, one of the most successful tennis players of all time, kicked the angry Tranner nest when she claimed trans women have an unfair advantage in sport. Cue lots of angry activists on social media, and some organisations even cut ties with her. As a result, Navratilova apologised, although for the baying mob, that is never enough. But it wasn't long until more professional athletes joined in the fray, including Sharon Davies and Paula Radcliffe, and even people outside the sporting world got involved, with rapper Zuby showing how bizarre the arguments had gotten by setting the women's weightlifting record because he decided to identify as a woman for enough time to pull it off. Truly stunning.
Now that I do believe, honestly, I would go ahead and call that one. That is in fact a genuine operative.
That's an epic troll right there.
there.
Zuby, I think, is the guy's name. I've never heard of him before. I heard this story.
I would say that's probably an operative who deliberately did that to fucking show us how stupid this fucking is.
That is so funny.
To point it out, and nobody got it. Nobody got it.
Oh, I think a lot of
Everybody just hated
people
on this
saw what
fucking
was
person
going on
for it.
there.
Yeah,
But what the irony about it is,
Rose saw it.
no matter what you think about it, the how it kicked off with the tennis player chick, I'm pretty sure that she's a lesbian and was like a big activist for lesbian women in sports in like the 90s. I think. I'm pretty sure. I could be thinking of somebody else, but so the irony is that back then she was like hailed as this LGBT goddess who, you know, was fighting for the, and now she's a piece of shit who says that men have an advantage in sports.
Where it's like, you know, and then this Zuby character shows up to prove her point, to back her up. And it's kind of important that we address that as something actually we have the opportunity to touch on here, you and I. The thing about the sports is, I mean, sure, yeah, obviously the male physiology is going to have an unfair advantage. I do not believe that that's necessarily to be regarded the case. Ultimately, I do think that ladies can.
No, but
I do think that ladies can, you know, can beat out men in many ways in sports, but
that's the gray area. Nobody's
inherently
saying that it's 100% one way or the other, unless you're a complete moron. I don't think anybody's saying it's 100% this way or it's 100% the other way. The problem that I have is that instead of everybody just freaking the fuck out about it, a little bit of logistic planning and reorganization in the way that we compete in these types of things could easily make it a lot more fair while being more inclusive. but I
And
think
then-
nobody's willing to kind of give an inch. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
Like we have to take into consideration, like boxing has weight classes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
UFC has like a weight class.
People suggest
There could be a weight class but also a hormone class and you know what I mean, a body
Right.
size
People-
and whatever
I'd
it
like
is,
to
muscle
give,
mass.
Give this suggestion. A lot of people have suggested, we have a specific classification for transgenders. Transgender people in sports, a transgender class, right? I say we have a transgender versus cisgender class, wherein we do in fact have as a specific arena for that particular competition, and to prove my point that women can in fact best men given the proper
Depends on
training
what it
and
is.
conditioning.
It depends on what it is. Women are faster. Men are generally, and I'm saying this on average. When we look at
women are more
stats,
graceful.
numbers, ballerina versus football player. I know it's stereotypical or whatever, but average, it's true. On the average sense, it's true. Of course there are exceptions. There's probably a lot of exceptions now, given just the pure number of people that there are.
Ultimately, I think that it's promoting that. This competition is going to be promoting that, which that allows, reminds me, your phone's about to die, but
I know.
if we get cut off, sorry, phone's dying, but we can't reach the cord. But
That's so fucking ghetto.
to bring up the competition, the cooperation over competition paradigm is one of the tools that we intend to use to combat this ANE inherent in the human system, is promoting this paradigm of valuing cooperation over competition by promoting or at least suggesting this idea of us treating cooperation as a competition, promoting the competition to be more cooperative. Who
Yeah,
can
there's
be
a
most
reason why it's
cooperative?
called
Can
healthy
you-
competition.
Yeah, let's
people-
use capitalism to our advantage.
Exactly.
Can you be more cooperative?
Can
like
you
for
be more
you, Rose of Dawn, right
cooperative?
here. Can you give us a solid, genuine response? Can you take me up on my challenge or invitation to a discussion? Can you cooperate with us and assist us in combating
But
this
in a
negative
more
influence?
general sense, I think that, like I said, nobody's willing to give an inch, and people now, I think younger people are kind of growing into this space in society where the word cooperation is a bad word, and so there is no such thing as healthy competition. But that's bullshit, because a healthy competition builds your character and your skills and your focus and all of that shit. There's a reason why those things are so important, especially when you talk about kids, young kids. Oh, take them to football, piano, blah blah blah, whatever the fuck it is. It's because to have that sense of something that you're trying to get better at, that's not a bad thing. Because you want to get better at something doesn't mean you're a fucking asshole. There's going to be people who are better than you at something and people who are worse than you.
And
You're just worried about your own growth as a person, and that doesn't make you bad.
Also, to note from my perspective, as regards the way that some people behave or the way that some people treat me or regard my behavior, should you happen to be better than somebody else in any given standard, being proud of that, especially if you've worked to earn that status, being proud of that and expressing pride in it, is so long as you don't cross the line into sheer arrogance, there's nothing wrong with that either. That's in fact supposed to be a good thing. You express pride in yourself for having overcome situations or
improving or mastering
yourself,
something.
enhanced or mastered yourself. You express this pride to be motivational, to inspire others to do the same, to be the example.
Especially kids. So why is that bad?
And it's not bad, and that's the thing, is that, again, another religious value that comes into play is going to be the implication or the inherent suggestion that, for example, Christ is the example. Jesus is the example to live up to. Anybody else who presents themselves as the example, they're heretics. They're stealing the spotlight from Jesus. That you're not to be regarded as anything other than trying to live up to this Jesus, this Messiah character. That's an idea that's
But you
presented
can't
by
ever make
religion.
it there,
No.
or else that's also heresy.
You're not allowed to make it there.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
also
And
heresy.
that's-
You can't be considered to be of that level.
Right. And
Yeah.
this is something that people see it and they think, well, that's just religious nonsense. That's just fanatical hogwash. But no, that plays into the very way you think about everything you do consider. That value is in play in your system. The programming of religion has placed it into the programming of society.
Yeah, for sure.
It
in
is,
little ways.
It's there.
In little
it's in everything you do.
microscopic freaking, ways.
It's an indoctrination that has spread like fucking wildfire. It's been taken the whole world hostage by storm.
Crazy.
I think that we're going to have to clip it here because the camera's about to die. We will do another video for you, Madam Rose of Dawn, but very,
sure.
very hopefully you in fact do respond to us before we get around to it.
Well, she's got plenty of material, so
Yeah,
we'll pick another one and have at it.
She's got a lot to do. She's a busy lady, but I'm gonna bug her with this. We'll see. We'll get her to watch the video.
She's great.
But we love you, Madam. You are fucking awesome. We adore your channel, and we think you're doing a hell of a job. Keep up the good fucking work. And hopefully we will talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody, spotters and general ordinary civilians alike. Kila Salai, Terry Uni Siari, Namaste.
Good night.